Welcome everybody to the PROLIM Lunch Bytes series. Today we'll be talking about NX, what's new in 2020. This will be part one of a two-part series. My name is Bryan Fischer. I am the NX application engineer. On the agenda today, we'll begin by talking about continuous release. We will then go into some modeling and then assemblies. First thing we want to look at is the new interface here with continuous release. On the home page here, you can see there is a what's new area, and up in the top right hand corner we have an area that is used for the continuous release downloads. Here we show how it was deployed in the past and how we plan on deploying in the future here. In the past you had your NX major release, maintenance packs, half releases, and then maintenance packs again. Here with continuous release, you'll be able to go up there and set your settings to what you want. You'll be able to tell it to be able to download when an update's available, notify you, or turn it off. You'll be getting a download once a month. These downloads provide bug fixes and sometimes also deliver a few high priority projects. Once every 6 months, you will get a major release. This is like NX 12 to NX 13, but in this case, it's no longer called NX 12, 13, and so on. It will be called NX, and that will be it. This continuous release will be used to be able to get features to the user quickly. In the next few steps, I will show you how you can turn off and on the continuous release, the updates, and things such as that. Up here in the top right hand corner, you'll see update notifications are disabled currently. If I come over here to my file, go to my preferences, utilities and customer defaults, go up to my gateway, software update, you notice I can say notified and download, notify only, or none. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back to notify and download and say OK. After I do that, I will then have to go and reset NX and reboot it. Once I restart NX, you will notice in the top right hand corner here, it now says software is up to date. If this was not up to date, you would get a red dot. You could then click on that, download NX, and update your NX session. The next thing I want to do is come over here and look at the what's new. Within here, you can come in here and filter it. For example, I'm going to say drafting. Drafted. Once I put drafting in, you'll notice we have whole call-out enhancements, parts list support, and so on. If I click on any of these, it will take us into a web page, and within that web page, you will have information on that subject. So for example here's the new enhancement to the call-out. The next thing we're going to look at, we're going to go in here and we're going to look at a what's changed report. To be able to do that, we come up to our help icon here in the top right hand corner, come back to the doc center, and here you will notice we're currently on the 1899 series. I'm going to go ahead and say what's changed in NX. Wait for the window to pop up. Once the window pops up, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, what's changed in menu buttons. Once again, I can filter this. If I say drafting again, you'll notice that it tells us draft and layout, gives us a button ID, a title, a description, and a source file. Additionally, I can come up here and I can compare it to any revision. So if I'm coming from NX 11 to continuous release, I could say NX 11, compare, wait for it to come up, and once again I can go to new buttons or remove buttons. If I go to remove menu buttons, once again it lists what has been removed. This is a quick way that you can come in and compare information before you update. Next thing I want to look at is our interface. I'm going to go ahead and close these windows, come back to NX here, and I'm going to go back to my assembly that I already have open. So they color-coded these icons a little bit. And they also went in and actually made anything that was not related to the modeling as a 2D image. So you see here new, open, save, print, so on are all a 2D image. Anything to do with the modeling will be an isometric 3D model image. The next thing you will notice that these are color-coded a little bit also. Pink is anything to do with the datum axis, datum planes, or datum ceases. Light blue will have to do with curves. Orange is used for changes to faces and surfaces. Additionally, they have added a new AI ribbon over here. This AI Predict toolbar explains how it predicts your next possible command. So if I hit a block and I go and do a chamfer, next time I hit a block, it will predict that I want to chamfer next. If I hit a block in a hole, it will then put not only the chamfer, but also the hole as my prediction. This is done by statistics in the background, and it learns as you continue to use the system. Now this is an add-on, so you may or may not have that add-on. It is a very nice feature that allows you to quickly go in and redo your steps over and over without having to reset new toolbars. Next, we're going to look into some of these commands now and some of the help features that have been added. Here we got context help. This contact assist help is a really neat tool that they've added. If we come in here and I hit tools, for example, and let's go to analysis, and go ahead and hit measure. And if I hit my F1 key, you will now notice over here on the left-hand side in our browser, it brings up information on the measurement tool. Additionally, you have here a little video you can play. I'm going to go ahead and play this video and let it run all the way through and show you how this works. I'm going to go actually first and make this a little bit larger and say okay.
I need to take some measurements of this plastic part. With the measure command open, I can display rollover tooltips that show basic measurements. Hovering over this edge, I get diameter and length. For the face, I get angle, area, and perimeter. To measure the width of the part, I'll select the outer face. Then, in the dialog box, I'll switch to point and select the center of the blend. That tells me the minimum distance. Next, I want to measure the projected distance from the inner hub to the outer hub. So I'll select the faces. The software infers the maximum perpendicular distance. In the dialog box, if I switch from point to vector, I can select a vector direction. And the software shows the measurement I want. I'll create an associative measurement and an annotation for this distance. When I click OK, the software creates my annotation and my associative expression.
So what you notice there, it walks you through the steps of that command. We'll do it with another command here once again. For example, let's say we say edge blend, hit F1 again. And you'll see it brings up information again. And if you hover over this, it gives you more information, waiting for it to load here. For example, it says here you may need these face blend examples. And it gives you, if you hover over, a little bit of a information on it, a little bit of an image. And then once again down here, there would be a 46-second video if I went and played it. In this case, I'm not going to play it just because most of us knows how to do an edge plane, but we will be getting into stout corner enhancements next. So let me go ahead and close this edge menu here. Take this back, and I'm going to bring up an image here. So this image here is Model and Stout Corner Enhancements. This is more of an advanced enhancement. However, I do want to show that this is an enhancement that has been added. Most people will be able to get away with just using regular blends and setback. However, if that does not get you the results you need, you do have the options now to go in there and do these styled corners. Here's a quick example here that shows you some of the degrees and segments that you can add along the way. We can always look into this farther if anybody else wants to, but it is an advanced command that most people will not be getting into. So the next thing after that we'll get into is angle, units, and expressions. So these are enhancements to the angular units and expressions. In the past, they were used with degrees. Now it has been changed to a radian based. Now, you can see here are a few examples of how these would be in the expressions and how they have changed. Now notice down there in the bottom where I said when you open parts from NX 12 or earlier versions, in which expressions use a correction factor to convert degrees to radians. The software now automatically does this for you. So this is another enhancement that has been added to the system and is a real nice thing if you're using radians versus degrees. The next enhancement we're going to be looking at is shadow curve. With the excavator open here, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my curve tab, go to shadow curve, and I'm going to hit the F1 to get some context help here. Here within the context help, we'll see the dialog box options. We show the light source, mask geometry, clipping, and so on. This explains a little bit of the options within the context of the dialog box. What I want to show here though on the right hand side, we're using shadow curves in various applications. So this gives us an example where the shadow curves can be used, the automotive world, the consumer world, and so on. We're going to be doing this here. We're going to identify the blind spot, but we're going to do it on a heavy machinery. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this real quick and come back in here. First thing we want to do is we want to select our bodies. We're going to have our filter up here turned to an entire assembly, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate this a little bit, and I'm going to pick the cab and a few other bodies here. Next, I'm going to come down to the clipping. Within the clipping, you have cone, pyramid, and body. I'm going to use cone for this one, and I'm going to pick my axis. Come over here next, and I'm going to identify a point. Since I do have a human body in there, I use that human body for my view. And I'm going to go WCS, reset it to 0, and say OK. So here's the point right here that I'm going to be using. Now you could just go vector, but for this case I'm going to go ahead and hit a point. Next we're going to come over and specify our plane. Once again I'm going to have to come up here in the filter, change it to entire assembly. I'm going to rotate it here, get us a good view, and say OK. I'm going to go ahead and define the shadow range here, and I'm going to apply this now. Now we have some shadow curves. To make this a little easier to see, I'm actually going to go into the curve command here, and let's see, no surface command, I apologize on that. Pull this down and go to bonded plane. So now I'm going to go ahead and say OK here. If I rotated this, first let me go ahead and make this my work. You now see the view that the driver would have and the blind spots that he would have. This is a real nice feature that allows you to go in there and actually see the areas, maybe for a projected TV, things like that. There's different applications that this can be used for For this case here, I showed the view that the driver himself would have outside the cab. That there is shadow curves. The next enhancement we're going to look at is Part Navigator. There's been some enhancements to this that you can change. We'll go over here and we'll make the cab our work here, and we'll go over to Part Navigator. And what you'll notice, this is a little bit different than what it has been in the past. We now have show high versus in the past this would be a check mark that would be suppress unsuppress. So if I come in here, for example, and select this body, I can hide it and show it real easy. However, if you want to go back to the suppress and unsuppress, there's two different ways to do it. The first way, you want to come in here, right click, come down to properties, and over here you have feature check box and box action. If we change that to suppress and we say OK, now we have it to suppress and unsuppress like we have in the past. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to hide and unhide. And if you wanted to permanently do this and make it a custom company standard, you would just come up here to File, Utilities, and Customer Defaults, and you would go through and you'd find it in there, and you'd be able to change it also. So if we come in here, for example, I'm going to come in Customer Default, Gateway up here at the top, Part Navigator down here, and once again, Feature Checkbox Action. Suppress or hide depending on how you like it. Now once again, for this being a custom default, you would have to get out and come back in for it to take place. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it, and that's the new Part Navigator there that allows us some enhancements in there. Additionally, if we look, I'm going to go ahead and expand this a little bit. You notice we have current feature. We have a little symbol next to it. So if we wanted this to be the current feature, we just double click it and it becomes our current feature. So if I come back once again, you can see how quickly I can go from one current feature to the next. So those are a few of the little Part Navigator enhancements that's been added to the system, and they make it a little bit easier for you to go and hide and show or suppress and unsuppress, and also see what the latest current feature is. Now with the assembly still open, we're going to look at the automatic work part change. This has been a nice little enhancement that's been added also. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to make the assembly my work. And I'm going to go ahead and say blend command. Now if I come over here and pick an edge, you'll notice right away that that now becomes my work part. If I said OK to this, and I continued on, let's just go ahead and say we want to do another edge blend. And I come over and I pick another part. You see how quickly you can change between parts without having to go work, displayed part, and so on. This allows you to quickly go in there and change and add features within the assembly without having to go and switch between parts all the time. Once again, it's another nice little feature that's been added. I'll go back up here and make the assembly my work part, and we'll go ahead next and we'll be looking at some assembly snapshots. With the assembly still open, we're going to look at assembly snapshots. This allows us to take a model and put it side by side with what has changed and not changed with the model and overlay them on top of each other. So for example, I'm going to come in here and in the CAD, we'll go arm, and we're going to look at a compression link. So a compression link there, I'm going to go ahead and make it my work. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on it. And from here, I'm going to go in and Tools, and we're going to hit Snapshot. Notice right away, this comes up allowing us to know that at this time, Save will be disabled until we turn Snapshot off. This allows us just to look at it, and if we do like to change, we can always turn Snapshot off and save it. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK to this. And once again, it's going to ask me here, what features do I want to end at? I want to do this here and say okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to synchronize my views. And I'm going to go ahead and put a view where we can look at it real nice here. And I'm going to make a change. We're going to go ahead and take this hole and we're going to edit it. And just so we can see it real nice, I'm going to make it a smaller hole here. And now you can see they overlay each model on top of each other here. You can invert it if you like. So once again, notice this up here, I cannot save it. Once I exit out of here, I am able to come back in here and save it again. Well, I don't want to really change it, so I'm going to go ahead and take that back to what it was. Go back over my assembly here, make it my work. And we're going to turn the snapshot off here completely and come back to our model here. And we're going to go ahead and orient the view back to isometric there. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. So snapshot allows you to go in there and actually put them side by side and look at things. And if you decide you want to save it, you can get out of snapshot and go back in your save command. We're going to continue on with some assembly enhancements. The next thing we're going to look at here is joints. If you're familiar with the motion package, you may recognize and understand these some, but if you're not, these joints are used to restrict and limit how a component is allowed to move. Down here in the bottom right, you can see here, well, actually in the center, I show the new joint types and what they were equivalent in the motion package. What we're going to do one with hinge. With our assembly still open, we're going to go ahead and do one of these hinge commands here, and we're going to show how this works. So I still have the assembly open here, and if we go into the arm here and I right click on it and we go down to show degree of freedom, you can see currently it's not locked down in any way, and we have several different degrees of freedom that we're able to move in. We're going to go ahead and refresh that so we can go and actually remove those degree of freedom so we don't see them. And to make this a little easier, I'm going to go actually and cut a view. And what I'm doing this for is it just makes it a little bit easier for me to actually select what I'm going to go in and pick. I'm going to say OK here. And we're going to come back to assemblies and we're going to say assembly constraints. So what you'll notice now is we have a hinge, slider, cylindrical, and ball. Additionally, down here we have some couplers. These are gear, rack and pinion, and cable. The couplers there work with the joints, so you have to have multiple joints to be able to use those couplers. We'll show some examples of those also. So what we want to concentrate though right now is our hinge here. First thing I want to do is I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And I'm going to pick this, and next I'm going to pick my point. Then we're going to go to the next one here. Same thing. I'm going to pick this here and then pick my point. And I'm going to say create joint and say OK. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my cross section here. And now we see our arm there. So if I come in here now and I pick this and I come down to dependencies, you can see I already had a couple other hinges in there. And here's our new hinge that I just added. So now if I come and pick my arm and I come down and I say show degree of freedoms, you'll notice it only has rotation. There's no longer up, down, left, right, or anything like that. We've eliminated some of the degree of freedom and we kept some of the degree of freedoms open so we can actually simulate motion pretty easy now. So if I come into assemblies here again and I say move component, and I want to take my arm here, the boom, and I'm going to move my handles. Let's see, we'll move the handle down here where we're at a rotation point that we can use. And turn that off. Gives a good view here. Now when I go in here, notice I can't go left and right, up and down. it won't allow me to do that. However, if I take this here, you'll notice I'll be able to rotate it real easy. And you see how everything is connected with each other now real nice, and allows you to actually go in there and move it. So that's the hinge command. It's a real nice command that allows you to go in there and simulate motion pretty easy. So we'll go over a few of these and look at them. That's the demonstration there of how the hinge works, but I also wanted to show the couplers. So we'll go in here now, and here's the couplers down at the bottom, and you can see it's right there with the joints. So you have the gear, you have to have 2 joints with angular values, and then you have your rack and pinion, and you have your cable. These are nice little features that's been added that allows you to go in there without having the motion package and actually go in there and simulate motion. That wraps up today's webinars on part 1. We'll be going on part 2 in the future. And if you have any questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and email me, and this will also be put on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel also, and thank you for your time.